Most love stories speak of flowers and sweet words, but the ancient legends of India tell a darker truth. This is a tale of a secret language, a poisoned gift, and a king forced to choose between his daughter and his soul. Our story today is but one of the many riddling tales told by the cunning Baital to Raja Vikram, stories meant to test his wisdom, his justice, and his fate. This is the story about the prince, the minister, and the lotus girl. In the ancient holy city of Benares, there once reigned a mighty prince named Pratapamukut. He was a man of iron will, but his eighth son, Vajramukut, was a creature of different metal, a young man whose heart was as restless as the mountain winds. One morning, the young prince, accompanied by his closest confidant, the son of the king's pradhan or prime minister, mounted his horse for a hunt. They rode far beyond the city gates, leaving the safety of the paved roads for the deep, suffocating green of the jungle. As they pushed further than any hunter had dared, the forest suddenly opened up to reveal a hidden marvel, a massive stone reservoir, a tank forgotten by time itself. It was surrounded by thick walls of fine baked brick, with ramps of cut stone leading down to water so clear it looked like a mirror for the gods. The masonry had fallen into disrepair, and from the crevices sprang huge, ancient trees whose branches cast a deep, balmy shade. Grey squirrels chirped as they raced up gnarled trunks, and long-tailed monkeys swung sportively from the hanging vines. The ground was a carpet of soft grass and many-hued wild flowers buzzing with swarms of bees. On the narrow strip of green belting the pool, flocks of wild geese, herons, and cranes fed among the broad-leaved lotuses, their blossoms white and pink against the pellucid waves. The prince and his friend, amazed by this paradise in the middle of a wild forest, dismounted and tethered their horses. They washed their faces in the cool water and entered a small weathered shrine dedicated to Mahadeva, the great god Shiva, to offer their worship. But as they emerged, a bevy of maidens, accompanied by a crowd of female slaves, descended the stone steps to bathe. At their center stood a maiden of such blinding beauty that the prince felt his breath vanish. She was the Raja's daughter, and as her eyes met his, the world seemed to go silent. The prince stood rooted to the spot, his tongue heavy, his cheeks flushed with a sudden heat. The princess, seeing his confusion and his striking beauty, did not look away. Instead, she began a silent, intricate pantomime. She plucked a lotus flower from the water and performed a mock prayer to it. Then she tucked it into the dark silk of her hair. Next, she moved it behind her ear. Then she bit the petal with her teeth. She cast it to the earth and trod upon it with her foot. She picked it up once more, and finally she pressed it firmly to her bosom before vanishing into her carriage. The prince returned to Benares a ghost. He stopped eating, he stopped sleeping, and he sat in a dark room painting her portrait over and over, only to tear the paper to shreds. "I have seen a musician from Indra's heaven," he cried to the minister's son, "and if she does not become mine, I will not live another day." The minister's son, a man of cold logic who had spent his life studying the hearts of men and the movements of stars, listened to the prince's frantic description of the lotus. He didn't offer comfort, he offered an explanation. "My prince," he said, "the lady has not rejected you. She has spoken to you in the language of the elite. By placing the lotus in her hair, she told you she is a daughter of the Carnatic, the land where that flower is queen. By putting it to her ear, she revealed her father is King Dantawat, the Tooth King. By biting the petal, she confirmed her own name is Padmavati, the Lotus born. By treading it under her foot, she warned you that her father is a mortal foe to your house. And by pressing it to her heart, she told you exactly who is currently dwelling within it. The prince was transformed by hope. Disguised as simple traveling traders, the two friends journeyed for weeks until they reached the capital of the Carnatic. They found lodging in the humble hut of an old woman who revealed she had once been the princess's wet nurse. Through her, the prince sent a secret poem. But when the nurse returned, she was bruised and weeping. The princess had flown into a rage, smeared her hands with white sandalwood paste, and slapped the old woman across the face with all 10 fingers. The prince was ready to plunge a sword into his heart, but the minister's son merely rolled his head. The 10 white finger marks are a code, my lord. She tells you to wait through the 10 nights of the bright moon. When the moon dies and the nights turn dark, she will find a way to meet you. 10 nights later, the nurse went back. This time, the princess marked her with 3 red streaks of saffron. 3 more days, the minister's son translated. Finally, on the 4th night, the prince stood at the western gate of the palace. The gate was ajar. A veiled figure emerged and grasped his hand, leading him through silent, winding corridors until they reached a chamber that looked like a dream of fairyland. For a full month, the prince lived in secret within those gold-leafed walls, intoxicated by Padmavati's wit. But even in paradise, he began to fret. He missed the counsel of his friend. When he finally told Padmavati of his longing to see the minister's son, she smiled, but it was the smile of a predator. She realized then that the prince was the body of the romance, while his friend was the sharp mind that had dismantled her secrets. She gave the prince a gift, a bag of sugar plums specially prepared by her own hands to give to the clever friend. But when the prince offered the sweets, the minister's son paused. He called the old woman's dog and tossed it a morsel. The animal took 1 bite, fell into a fit of agony, and died instantly. She is a superior woman, the minister's son said, his voice as cold as a mountain spring. She realized I was the threat to her power over you, and she tried to remove me. Now we must meet her with the only weapon she respects, treachery. He handed the prince a trident, a 3-pronged iron spear. Go back to her, show no anger, wait until she falls into the deep, heavy sleep that follows a night of wine. Then strike her left thigh with this trident, take her jewels, every necklace and ring, and bring them to me. The prince, caught between a lover's passion and a friend's iron logic, did as he was told. He marked the woman he loved, robbed her while she lay unconscious, and fled into the night. The next day, the minister's son disguised himself as a guru, a holy ascetic of the cremation grounds, with the prince as his humble disciple. They went to the city's main market and offered the princess's famous gems for a price so low it was an insult. They were immediately dragged before King Dantawat. "Where did you steal these royal stones?" the king roared. The guru looked at the king with eyes that seemed to have stared into the sun. "I am a sorcerer of the dead," he said calmly. "Last night, while I was performing my rites in the cemetery, a witch appeared to steal my life force. I fought her. I struck her in the left leg with my iron trident. She fled, dropping these trinkets in the dust. I care nothing for gems. I only seek to sell them to buy oil for my lamps." The king, chilled to his very soul, sent his own mother to check on Padmavati. She found the princess in bed, weeping in agony, her leg marked with 3 deep inflamed holes. Believing his own child was a creature of darkness who prowled the graveyards at night, the king followed the ancient laws of the Dharma Shastra. He could not spill her blood, so he chose a slower death. He ordered his men to seize Padmavati and abandon her in the deepest, most haunted part of the jungle, where the tigers are the only kings. The prince and the minister's son were waiting in the shadows. They rescued the terrified girl from the forest, revealed the depth of their own trickery, and carried her back to Benares, where the philosopher friend made sure she was lawfully wedded and safely under their watch. The vampire shifted on the king's back, its cold breath tickling his ear. "Now, Raja Vikram," the Baital hissed, "tell me truly, who was the most to blame for this tragedy? The prince who betrayed his lover, the friend who planned the trap, the girl who tried to poison a guest, or the father who threw his own child to the beasts? If you do not answer, your head will shatter like a dropped pot." King Vikram spoke, his voice steady as he walked through the haunted night. "The father Raja Dantawat bears the ultimate guilt." "And why?" the vampire mocked. "Because the prince was a fool lost in love," the king replied. "The minister's son was a servant doing his master's business. The girl was a creature of passion and survival. But the Raja, he was a ruler of men and a father of children. He allowed a shallow trick and the word of a stranger to blind his judgment. Without a single question or a moment of reflection, he cast his own flesh and blood into the wilderness to die. He failed the most basic duty of a king, to seek the truth." "Correct," the vampire shrieked with a sound like tearing silk. "I go back to my tree." And with a rush of cold air, the weight vanished, leaving the king alone once more in the silence of the forest. This was the story about the prince, the minister, and the lotus girl. If you want to hear what the Baital reveals next to Raja Vikram, subscribe and follow on, for the next tale weighs the sin of men and women alike, and its judgment is not easily escaped.